Millie Weaver reporting for Infowars.com. Well, I have some pretty interesting updates for you guys regarding that Central American migrant caravan that was making its way to our southern border. Well, it turns out that this migrant caravan has already just made it to our southern border. It says that right now the migrant caravan has arrived in Mexicali and is on their way to Tijuana. Now, right now, a large portion of this migrant caravan is in Mexicali, where they're receiving shelter and food and medical treatment. They're being able to sit and eat ham and egg sandwiches, drink iced tea, and even charge their cell phones. You know, it doesn't seem like these are refugees that are needing immediate asylum inside the United States when they are already receiving asylum in Mexico. Now, this caravan plans to then come up to Tijuana, where it is determined to seek asylum inside the United States, despite President Trump's warnings, despite the Department of Homeland Security's warnings against them doing this. They don't care. They think that they have a right to come into America and to become American citizens. Now, Democrat NGOs have been aiding and helping these caravans along. Apparently, the caravan was originally disbanded and, was turned back toward the Mexico's southern border after President Trump had tweeted out that Mexico aiding this migrant group was going to have negative consequences on the NAFTA agreement between the United States and Mexico. So originally this group was disbanded and it was turning back. Then some Democrat NGOs had redirected the group back up toward America's borders and has been aiding them. So who's supplying and who's financing it? These are non-profit, non-government organizations, so George Soros type organizations that are helping these groups because, yes, they want to bring in as many illegals and immigrants into the United States before the midterms to essentially disrupt our midterm elections. So, according to the Desert Sun, who interviewed a woman who had a 10-month-old baby, this woman's baby had a fever and was vomiting and was receiving medical treatment in Mexicali at their shelter. Now, apparently, as many as 50 other people had also been treated for respiratory infections, diarrhea, and a plethora of other illnesses. So that means that this migrant caravan that is determined to gain access to the United States to illegally cross or to seek asylum has all kinds of diseases and illnesses that are common in third world countries. And yet, isn't that ironic that liberals in California want to push for mandatory vaccines for its residents, yet they're totally okay with a bunch of illegal immigrants coming in from third world countries who have not been vaccinated and who are carrying diseases? It's a bit hypocritical, isn't it? So, Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen issued this statement to this migrant caravan. It said, "For those seeking asylum, all individuals may be detained while their claims are adjudicated efficiently and expeditiously, and those found not to have a claim will be promptly removed from the United States. Department of Homeland Security encourages persons with asylum or other similar claims to seek protections in the first safe country that they enter, including Mexico." So essentially, what the Department of Homeland Security Secretary is pointing out here is that these people are not seeking asylum because they've already been granted asylum in Mexico. So technically, they wouldn't be protected and they wouldn't be granted asylum into the U.S. southern border. However, we all know that Democrats like to try to cheat and use loopholes, so we don't know exactly what's going to happen here. We don't know if we're going to get some Democrat liberal judge in California with a wild hair up his you-know-what that decides to try and overturn this and allow these people in regardless of what the Homeland Security is saying. Now, Trump also instructed the Department of Homeland Security not to let these large caravans into our southern border. And he warned Mexico that them allowing these caravans through Mexico to come to the United States could have negative consequences on NAFTA. And in fact, it's a stipulation and a condition upon NAFTA between Mexico and the United States. Now, what's interesting is what Sessions' comments were. Sessions said the caravan has ignored the willingness of Mexico to offer asylum, which is exactly what they did. Mexico offered the caravan asylum after Trump tweeted out threats towards Mexico for allowing this to happen. This caravan has deliberately ignored that, and he says their arrival is a deliberate attempt to undermine our laws and our system. That's exactly what it is. That's why you have Democrat NGOs aiding and abetting these immigrants to come across Mexico. Mind you, this is no small journey. To go from Mexico all the way up to U.S. southern border, from southern border Mexico to the U.S.'s southern border, is no small feat. These people are trekking hundreds of thousands of miles. Now, how many people are in this caravan? Well, after the caravan was disbanded, you had individual groups heading up to the U.S. southern border. So they kind of split up in a way to remain a little bit more low profile. So they're coming in waves, and hundreds and hundreds of migrants waves are coming. So essentially, the one that just landed in Mexicali is about 150 people. There's another group that's heading up right behind them that's about 300, and so on and so on. And they're estimated to be about 1,600 or more. And if, in fact, these migrants do gain asylum inside the United States, what is that going to do? Well, it's going to spark a large mass of people coming to our southern border. As soon as word catches on that the gates are open, the border's open, it's a free-for-all, you're going to have thousands upon thousands upon thousands of illegal immigrants flooding into America. Now, it's important to note here that these immigrants are not refugees that are in need of immediate help. I mean, for goodness sakes, they're stopped in Mexicali, many of them right now, where they're being fed egg and ham sandwiches, iced tea, and even have access to charge their cell phones. So these aren't like immigrants that are refugees that need immediate help. In fact, our homeless veterans on the street are in more dire need of immediate help and immediate assistance than these immigrants are in Mexico right now. So let's focus on America first. And that's exactly why I'm wearing this hat today. So you can say what you want to say about Trump. You know, the man may not be perfect, but I sure as heck do agree with a lot of the things that he's doing to help our country and make it great again. Remember, guys, this hat that I'm wearing right now is not representative necessarily of my undying loyalty or support for Trump. That's not what it is at all. In fact, this hat is an ideology. It's a concept. It's the concept of putting America first and making America great again. Now, I do appreciate what Trump's doing, and I do still support Trump. But what I will say is you don't have to support Trump to support the concept of putting Americans first, of making America great again, of putting our homeless veterans, our homeless Americans that are out on the streets right now ahead of these immigrants from other countries. Let's focus on helping our own first before we're helping others and causing more problems. The problem is that we know that the Democrat Party, they just want these illegal immigrants to come into our country because they know that they can easily manipulate them by handing them out welfare and social aid and getting them caught up in their political party so that then they go vote Democrat. This is all it is. All these people are to the Democrat Party are votes. And what's more concerning here is how this is going to affect the political laws and the stability of our own country. So for those of you guys who are just now jumping on this feed, I just want to reiterate really quick and summarize up what I just kind of talked about here, in that we have a large migrant caravan still heading toward the U.S. southern border, despite Trump's warnings, despite the Homeland Security warning otherwise in trying to deter them, despite Trump making threats towards Mexico that this could actually impact NAFTA and he could revoke NAFTA if Mexico isn't going to comply in keeping illegal immigrants from crossing their southern border to then come up to our southern border. So who's supplying this financial aid? Who's financing these groups? It doesn't cost nothing to bring thousands of people from a third world country all the way across Mexico up into our southern border. That's what we have to ask ourselves. It's obvious these are being funded by Democrat NGOs. Now, the Desert Sun, they talked about how these immigrants are sick. They have diseases. There's a 10-month-old baby of a mother they interviewed who was vomiting with fever, and that over 50 of the migrants out of the 130 that arrived at Mexicali in the first wave had been treated for over 50 different illnesses. So how many are then going to try to not stop at the shelters and just try to immediately cross, or even just not seek asylum, but try to illegally cross our southern border, that are going to have a plethora of diseases that we don't have in the United States, that are typically known to be in third world countries? And isn't it a bit hypocritical that Democrats want to force residents, American citizens in California, to have mandatory vaccines before their children can even attend public school? They have to have mandatory vaccines because, we're all so worried about what kind of diseases non-vaccinated children are having in our Western civilized country, such as the United States, that has already eradicated many of these diseases. So they're worried about that, but they're not worried about people coming from third world countries where these diseases have not been eradicated and where people are going to be coming in sick with disease unvaccinated. So that's a little bit hypocritical, and you would think that they would at least want to have these people be forced to be vaccinated, if anything, but you don't hear them saying that. Now, I did talk and go over a little bit of what Department of Homeland Security Kirstjen Nielsen issued in her statement, basically pertaining to the fact that the Department of Homeland Security is not on board with this caravan trying to seek asylum. They basically point out that you're supposed to first seek asylum in the first country that will offer you protections. Given that Mexico has already offered this caravan protections, technically they're no longer refugees. They're no longer asylum seekers because they've already been given asylum in Mexico. These are people that simply just want United States citizenship. They want to come into our country and benefit from what all of us taxpayers have paid for. We pay for the schools. We pay for the roads. We paid for everything out of our own tax dollars. And these are people who want to come in illegally, put their kids into the school systems, bog down the systems, and benefit from what they haven't paid for themselves. And many of them that aren't going to obtain asylum are in fact going to be determined, and they're going to try and cross illegally. You don't just trek thousands of miles and then say, oh well, I'm just going to turn around and go home. This is the problem we're having right now with this immigrant caravan and the message that it'll send. Because yeah, sure, it might only be 1,000 or a couple thousand people in this migrant caravan, but it's the message that it sends that if these guys can make it through, anyone can make it through. And then that means we're going to have continuous nonstop flows of thousands and thousands of illegal immigrants into California, into the rest of the United States. This is more along the lines why we do need to have a secure border wall. It's why Trump talks about build the wall. And yeah, some people say, hey, what about people who come over on visas? What about people who can fly over in an airplane? Yeah, but there's a good amount of people that can walk along the border right now. It's just as simple as that. Just trace right along, cross our border. And Trump has also been promoting, as part of his border wall security plan, to add budgeting for internal border security, meaning people being deported internally because the majority of illegals are here on visa overstays. So it's not just only a wall concept that we're talking about. It's a whole border security implementation strategy that Trump has been promoting here. The main reason I'm telling you guys this right now is because we have a dilemma right now in our country. We have Democrats trying to push for this blue wave, essentially gearing up for the midterms, planning to overtake the elections, to overtake Congress, to overtake the Senate, to overtake many of the other local governments. Do you really want your local government to become a sanctuary city? Do you want your towns to be sanctuary cities? Do you want Democrats to get in? And given that Congress has the authority to vote on immigration, how our borders are secure, and how our immigration policies are going to be enacted, do you want Congress to turn blue? Because you know what they're going to do. They're going to open up the floodgates and allow thousands of these people to come in here and illegally vote. So I just want to point that out here, guys. It's so important to get out and vote during the midterm elections this November. Get out the vote. I gotta sign off for you guys right now, but please share the links. Please share this message. We need to get this message out there. If you guys are really believing in this concept of making America great again, putting America first, share this message to get the message out that we right now have a crisis going on our southern border. Also, hit up our store, InfowarsStore.com, where we have awesome supplements. You can get Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine, Super Blue Toothpaste, Bone Broth, Caveman, tons of amazing products. Support us at InfowarsStore.com. I'm Millie Weaver signing off for Infowars.com.